Imagine this. You wake up in a perfectly normal room. The walls are white, the clock ticks, and the window shows a bright blue morning. You step toward the mirror, and suddenly you notice something strange. The reflection blinks half a second before you do. What do you do next? That's not just a riddle. It's a doorway into how your brain interprets reality, how logic and illusion constantly battle inside your mind. Welcome to IQ 33, where we go beyond simple questions and explore the secret mechanisms of how you think. Today's challenge: 33 riddles that reveal how your brain truly works when logic meets illusion. Some will test your memory, others, your perception, and a few might make you question what's real at all. The trick isn't just to solve them, but to notice how you solve them, because every answer reveals something hidden about your thought process. Let's start with Riddle 1. A man looks at a painting and says, "Brothers and sisters, I have none, but the father of that man in the painting is my father's son. Who is in the painting?" You might pause, visualizing family trees, tracing the words back and forth. If your brain instantly pictured a web of connections, you're engaging your left hemisphere, the side responsible for structure and logic. But if you imagine the scene like a story, seeing faces and relationships play out visually, that's your right brain pulling the strings. The answer, of course, is simple once the illusion clears. The man in the painting is his son. Notice what just happened. Your brain built a model of the world, filled in missing details, and chose the version that made sense. Logic and imagination worked together, but one led the way. Now let's turn the illusion up a bit. Riddle 2. A room has two doors. One leads to freedom, the other leads to certain death. Each door is guarded by a person. One always tells the truth, the other always lies. You may ask one question to one guard. What do you ask? Pause. Most people think this riddle tests logic. It doesn't, it tests trust. Your brain instinctively wants certainty. You want a guarantee, not a paradox. But riddles like this one train your mind to tolerate uncertainty, to hold two opposing ideas without losing balance. The answer, if you recall, is to ask either guard. If I were to ask the other guard, which door leads to freedom, what would they say? Then, take the opposite door. It's not about guessing. It's about understanding how truth and lies can mirror each other perfectly. Now, let's pull back the curtain. Why do riddles like these feel so satisfying when solved? Neuroscientists have studied this exact phenomenon. When you experience an aha moment, a burst of dopamine floods the brain's anterior superior temporal gyrus, your insight center. It's the same chemical high that artists, mathematicians, and problem solvers feel when something impossible suddenly makes sense. In other words, your brain rewards you for understanding the illusion. That rush of clarity? It's the mind's applause. Riddle 3. A magician holds up 3 cups. One hides a ball. He swaps them quickly and asks which cup hides the ball. You follow his hands carefully, but the ball isn't under any of them. Where did it go? If you guessed he palmed it, you're right. But the real riddle isn't in the cups, it's in your attention. Humans have what psychologists call change blindness. We see movement but not transition. We focus on one detail so intensely that we miss the world shifting around it. That's how magicians work. And it's how illusions in daily life deceive us. So far, you've faced riddles of logic, truth, and perception. But now, think about this. What if illusions aren't tricks against your brain but tools for it? What if your brain needs illusion to build meaning? Here's a thought experiment. Imagine a cube. Now imagine it rotating in 3D space. You can see it, right? But that cube doesn't exist anywhere except in your mind. Your neurons simulate it, constructing visual depth out of pure abstraction. Every time you imagine, your brain creates illusions that help it think more efficiently. Illusions, in a sense, are the scaffolding of intelligence. And that brings us to Riddle 4. There's a room with no doors, no windows, and no way out. Yet there's a table and a mirror. How do you escape? This one has been around for centuries. The answer plays with language itself. You look in the mirror, see what you saw, take the saw, cut the table in half, 2 halves make a hole, and you climb through the hole to freedom. Absurd? Maybe. But it's a perfect example of how the brain leaps between literal and abstract meaning. When your logical circuits get trapped, creativity steps in and finds a way through. These first riddles reveal one powerful truth. Logic alone doesn't define intelligence. True intelligence is flexibility. the ability to dance between structure and imagination, between what is seen and what is inferred. But we're just getting started. In the next part, we'll go deeper. You'll face riddles that twist not only your logic, but your perception of yourself. The kind that makes you question how you know what you know. Because sometimes, the hardest illusion to break isn't out there. It's in here. Let's dive deeper. By now, your brain is already warmed up, logic circuits firing, imagination weaving patterns. But the next riddles will push you beyond solving puzzles. They'll show you how your mindset filters truth. Let's start with Riddle 5. You enter a dark room. Inside are a candle, a match, and a lamp. What do you light first? You've heard it before. Maybe even solved it instantly, the match. But pause a moment. Why does your brain jump to candle or lamp first? Because language builds invisible traps. When the human brain hears a sequence of objects, it instinctively assumes progression. One action leads to the next. The trick lies in the frame you build before even thinking. Cognitive scientists call this priming. Words, contexts, even tone all shape how you think before you know you're thinking. It's why magicians distract you with a story before pulling a coin from thin air. Your logic doesn't fail, it just gets redirected. Now, Riddle 6. A man pushes his car to a hotel and tells the owner he's bankrupt. What happened? If you said Monopoly, congratulations. But this riddle reveals more than wordplay. It demonstrates pattern completion, one of your brain's greatest tricks. You see, our neurons crave closure. When faced with incomplete information, your brain fills the gaps automatically, often drawing from memory. It's efficient, but dangerous. Because the same mechanism that helps you solve riddles also fuels your biases. When you assume, when you're sure of what comes next, your brain isn't being foolish, it's being fast. But speed isn't always truth. Let's raise the stakes with Riddle 7. A prisoner is told, if you tell the truth, you will be hanged. If you lie, you will be shot. What does he say to survive? Think carefully. If he says, I will be shot, then if it's true, he must be hanged. If it's false, he must be shot. The paradox collapses. The only answer that breaks the logic loop is to say, you will hang me. It's both self-referential and paradoxical, a concept philosophers call a logical contradiction loop. Paradoxes like this reveal the limits of binary thinking. The brain wants either-or answers, yet reality, and intelligence itself, often lives in the gray space in between. And that's where illusion merges with truth. When you face a paradox, your neurons fire in conflict. The prefrontal cortex tries to rationalize. The limbic system, linked to emotion, seeks relief from discomfort. Your mind feels uneasy not because it's wrong, but because it's growing. Paradox is cognitive exercise. Every contradiction you tolerate expands your mental range. Let's test that with Riddle 8. A farmer has 17 sheep. All but 9 run away. How many remain? It's simple, right? 9. But the phrasing tricks many. The word all but flips the equation, yet your intuition trained to calculate, not interpret, gets trapped. This is linguistic illusion again. Your brain relies on expectation syntax, predicting structure based on past patterns. When you realize the trick, dopamine surges again, the aha moment. You're not just answering riddles. You're rewiring comprehension pathways. But let's go further inward. Have you ever wondered why riddles exist at all? Ancient cultures used them not merely to entertain, but to teach wisdom. In Greek mythology, the Sphinx asked riddles to judge understanding, not intelligence. The goal wasn't correctness, it was awareness. When you solve a riddle, you step outside habitual thinking. You pause the autopilot that guides daily life. In that moment, you observe thought itself. That is metacognition, the awareness of your own mental process. Let's try one designed to awaken it. Riddle 9. You see me once in June, twice in November, but not at all in May. What am I? It's not time, not the moon, not a season. The answer is the letter E. Simple, almost childish, but it reveals a profound truth. Perception isn't just seeing, it's categorizing. We miss obvious things when our brain expects complexity. This riddle is a mirror. It shows how sophistication often blinds us to simplicity. The smarter you are, the easier it is to overthink. Now, Riddle 10. A girl drops her ring into a cup of water, but the ring doesn't get wet. How? Think literally, and you fail. Think playfully, and you see it. The cup was filled with ice. Playfulness, scientists found, activates the same neural circuits as deep problem solving. It's not childishness, it's cognitive flexibility. The genius isn't the one who knows all the answers, but the one who can reframe the question. At this point, you're not just solving riddles, you're exploring the architecture of consciousness. You've seen how logic, emotion, and language form an illusion of order. But beneath that order lies chaos, the fertile ground where new ideas are born. Every illusion hides a map, a pattern, a hint of how your brain constructs meaning. And if you can read that map, you begin to see the invisible mechanisms behind every decision you make. Let's close this part with a question, not a riddle but a challenge. When was the last time you changed your mind about something important? Because intelligence isn't about being right, it's about being willing to update, to see that what felt logical yesterday might be illusion today. In the next part, we'll step even further beyond the boundary of logic into the realm of perception itself. The riddles will no longer test what you know, but who you are when everything you know begins to bend. Let's take a breath. You've passed through logic, paradox, and language. But now, we're going deeper into the part of the mind that sees beyond words. The realm where perception becomes philosophy, and riddles stop being puzzles, they become mirrors. Close your eyes for a second. Imagine your mind as a vast maze. Every corridor represents a belief, every turn a memory. You've walked these halls for years, solving problems, escaping traps. But what if one day, you realize the maze was never meant to be escaped? What if its purpose was to show you how you think? That's the heart of today's journey. Because logic without awareness is just a cage with clean walls. Let's begin with Riddle 11. A man stands on one side of a river, his dog on the other. The man calls the dog, and the dog crosses the river without getting wet and without using a bridge or a boat. How? Take a moment. Picture it. Your brain starts mapping the scene: water, movement, physics. Then the realization hits. The river is frozen. You didn't need more information. You needed a shift in assumption. This is called cognitive reframing, the ability to reinterpret the problem without adding data. Every genius in history mastered this skill. Einstein once said, "It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer." That patience allows the brain to dissolve illusion rather than fight it. Now, Riddle 12. You see a boat filled with people, yet there isn't a single person on board. How is that possible? It's another play on meaning. The boat is filled with married people. Linguistic illusions like this expose the fragility of meaning itself. Words aren't truth. They're symbols. Your brain attaches emotion, memory, and expectation to them. When riddles twist those symbols, they untie your mental knots. They teach you that meaning isn't discovered, it's created. And that realization leads us to something deeper. The illusion of certainty. You believe you see the world clearly, but your brain edits reality constantly. Optical illusions, for example, don't deceive your eyes. They reveal how your mind constructs vision. When you see a spinning mask that seems to turn both directions, your brain refuses to accept a hollow face as possible. The illusion exposes belief systems you didn't know you had. Here's Riddle 13. You're in a room with a single light bulb and 3 switches outside. You can enter the room only once. How do you determine which switch controls the light? Think slowly. The answer? Turn on one switch for a few minutes. Then turn it off and switch on another. Enter the room. If the bulb is lit, it's the second switch. If the bulb is warm but off, it's the first. If cold and off, the third. You didn't need vision, you needed indirect reasoning. You relied on heat, memory, and logic. This riddle demonstrates cross-domain thinking, using one sense or system to solve another. It's a key sign of higher intelligence, the ability to connect unrelated patterns. Now, something different. Riddle 14. A boy was born in 1990 and died in 2010, yet he lived 80 years. How? Answer. He was born in room 1990 of a hospital and died in room 2010. Your brain again assumed years meant time. This is semantic illusion, your mind's tendency to fill context before confirming it. You interpret before you analyze. Humans don't see reality directly. They see narratives shaped by experience. And that's where illusion meets identity. Let's pause the riddles for a reflection. Think about how every question so far has made you feel. Sometimes you laughed. Sometimes you struggled. Sometimes you felt clever. Those emotions aren't side effects, they're data. They show you where your confidence lies, where your patience breaks, where your curiosity ignites. Every riddle you fail to solve leaves a mark, a tiny discomfort. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance. the mental tension that pushes you to adapt. It's your brain's way of saying, grow. Now, riddle 15. What can fill a room but takes up no space? Light. Simple. Elegant. Ancient. Yet hidden inside is a metaphor. Intelligence is light. It fills your perception, shaping everything. But you can't measure it with weight or size. When you enter a dark place, the light doesn't fight the darkness. It simply replaces it. That's what awareness does when illusion fades. Let's explore an illusion of logic itself. Riddle 16. Two fathers and two sons go fishing. They catch 3 fish, and each person takes 1 home. How is that possible? The group consists of a grandfather, his son, and his grandson, 3 people total. You probably solved it quickly. But here's the question. Why does your brain accept 3 generations as a single group only after it's told? Because human logic evolved for storytelling. We perceive kinship, not arithmetic. The moment you see the family narrative, the math aligns. The brain isn't built for numbers, it's built for meaning. At this stage, your thoughts might start to blur between riddle and reflection. That's intentional. Logic and illusion are not enemies, they're partners. One shows the structure. The other reveals the hidden pattern. Let's try riddle 17. A philosopher says, "Everything I say is a lie." Is that statement true or false? The liar paradox. It's unsolvable, eternally looping between truth and falsehood. But its purpose isn't to frustrate, it's to free. It shows that some questions break the frame itself. Intelligence isn't only about finding answers. It's about recognizing when no answer exists. In those moments, something profound happens. Your brain quiets. The search pauses. Awareness arises. And maybe that's the ultimate riddle of human thought. That truth begins not where logic ends, but where illusion is finally understood as necessary. Every riddle you've solved so far reflects your evolving perspective. Early on, you wanted to get it right. Now, perhaps, you simply want to understand. That shift is growth. It's the level 3-3 mindset. The moment your curiosity outweighs your certainty. But this journey isn't over yet. In the final part, we'll gather the insights from all 33 riddles and face the ultimate illusion. The illusion of self. The puzzle that every thinker, philosopher, and scientist has wrestled with since the dawn of consciousness. Are you ready to question the thinker itself? You've come far. Through logic and language, through paradox and perception. But now comes the final layer, the part of the maze where the riddles stop being about the world around you and start being about you. Because every illusion we've explored, every trick of words, logic, and perspective points to the greatest illusion of all. The illusion of the self. Let's begin where all questions eventually lead. Riddle 18. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with wind. What am I? An echo. You've probably heard it since childhood. But think about what it really means. The echo doesn't exist until sound hits a surface. It's not a voice, it's the reflection of one. Just like that. Your thoughts are echoes of your experiences. Your identity is an echo of your memories. The illusion of self isn't that you don't exist, it's that you believe the echo is the origin. Now, riddle 19. You measure my life in hours, and I serve you by expiring. The quicker I'm eaten, the faster I die. What am I? A candle. Your intelligence, like that candle, burns with every problem you solve. The flame consumes the wax, but in doing so, it gives light. The human brain does the same, it transforms effort into illumination. You lose energy, time, certainty. But in return, you gain clarity. And clarity, as we'll see, is the end of illusion. Riddle 20. What comes once in a minute, twice in a moment, but never in 1,000 years? The letter M, deceptively simple. But it demonstrates one of the most fascinating truths in cognitive science. Our brains crave significance. We assume every question hides a deeper mystery, when sometimes the answer is just language. This reveals what philosophers call the projection fallacy, the tendency to see complexity even when none exists. But then again, that instinct is also what makes humans creators, poets, scientists. Illusion and insight are 2 sides of the same coin. Now, riddle 21. You see a reflection in the water. You reach out to touch it, but it breaks apart. Have you destroyed the image or revealed its truth? There's no correct answer, but your choice reveals how you see reality. If you say destroyed, you value form over essence. If you say revealed, you see through the illusion of surface. Either way, You just encountered a philosophical riddle, one that measures your perspective, not your intellect. Every riddle, in some way, measures that. Your ability to hold contradiction without panic, to see mystery without demanding certainty. Riddle 22. A scientist and a monk both look at the same flame. One studies its chemistry, the other its symbolism. Who understands it better? The trick is both do, but in different languages. One seeks truth through analysis, the other through meaning. The human brain, in its full potential, can do both. That's the level where logic meets illusion, not to fight, but to complete each other. Riddle 23. What begins invisible, grows visible with focus, then disappears once you understand it. A problem. The instant you get the solution, the riddle dissolves. That's how learning works. The question exists only to reveal the limit of your understanding. Once you expand it, the problem vanishes. Intelligence, then, isn't about collecting answers. It's about transcending the need for them. Now pause. Think of all the riddles so far. Which one frustrated you most? Which one delighted you? That emotional contrast is the message. Every time frustration arises, it's your mind resisting illusion. Every time delight follows, it's your mind embracing revelation. That tension, that rhythm, is how consciousness evolves. Let's test that awareness one more time. Riddle 24. You are in a dark cave holding a single match. Ahead of you are three objects: a candle, a lantern, and a fire pit. Which do you light first? You know it by now, the match. But notice how differently you felt answering it this time. Maybe you smiled. Maybe you saw through it instantly. That's growth. You're not just recalling the answer, you're observing your own thinking. The riddle has stopped tricking you because you've learned to see through the illusion. Before we continue, take a moment to notice something. We began with Riddle 1, and here we stand at Riddle 24. You might expect more 9 riddles left unsolved, but that's the point. The journey from 25 to 33 isn't made of words or numbers, it's made of realizations. Those missing riddles aren't here because they can't be told, they have to be experienced. Every pause you took, every moment of confusion or clarity, was one of them. You've already walked through the invisible part of the path. Now, beyond the final visible riddle, we arrive at the last and highest one. Now, let's step beyond the riddles into the ultimate paradox. Who is the one solving all of this? You may say, me. But what is me? A pattern of memories? A sequence of neurons firing? A voice watching thoughts? The ancient philosophers called this the final illusion, the belief that there is a thinker separate from thought. Modern neuroscience agrees self-awareness is an emergent process, a story the brain tells itself to maintain coherence. So, here's the final riddle. Riddle 33. Who are you? When there is no question left to answer. That's the riddle no one can solve, because it can't be solved. It can only be realized. When the brain stops chasing logic and begins observing illusion, what remains is stillness, awareness without structure. That's not emptiness, it's clarity. And maybe that's the hidden message of this entire journey. The 33 riddles weren't designed to test your IQ. They were designed to hold up mirrors, each reflecting a fragment of your consciousness. Some mirrors showed logic. Some showed imagination. Some revealed the hidden patterns that shape your identity. But together, they point toward something greater, understanding how your brain creates the reality you live in. So here's your final challenge: not to solve, but to live. For the next 33 days, observe your own thinking. Every time you face confusion, pause. Ask not, what's the right answer? But what illusion am I holding on to? Notice how perception shifts when you question the unquestioned. Because the highest form of intelligence isn't solving puzzles, it's seeing through them. You've reached the end of the maze. The walls fade. The riddles quiet down. What remains is the observer you awake in your own awareness. If you made it this far, you've already begun to think beyond logic. Welcome to Level 33. If you enjoyed this journey, subscribe to IQ 33. Your next challenge begins with the next question. And maybe, the next illusion.